another image sent in, so we're trying to achieve a really bright and vibrant orange and teal look. So we've done a tutorial on him before, but we're doing another one because you guys really liked it. And if we just get straight over, I'll show you his Instagram. So if we come over here, you can see, you guys can give him a follow firstly down in the description. I'll be putting all his links down there. And if we come down, you can see there's a lot of drone shots. And as for color, you can see he's really using the reds, the teals, and the oranges, and the yellows as well. So you can see those three colors or four colors are really popping a lot. And we're going to be working with this image. So we've got the exact same photo and file, and we're going to be trying to recreate the exact same edit. So as you can see, we're going to have to bring up those shadows to really create the warm, vibrant look to the image, bring up the vibrance, bring down the clarity because it's a really smooth, natural looking image. And if we come up, if you guys are interested in his presets, we've worked out a deal for you guys. So if you come over here, if you click here, new presets, so as you guys can see, you can save $30 today. And on top of that, we've come up with a discount code for this tutorial called Maarten10. So enter that at checkout. So if you come to buy now, and then if you just put in the discount code Maarten10 into the discount there, you will get another $10 off your purchase. Back to his Instagram, we are going to be trying to recreate something like this with the exact same photo, so we should get pretty darn close. And yeah, let's get into it. Here's the raw unedited image and a screenshot from his Instagram. So first things first, I just want to show you guys the cropping. So if we come in here, we can see 4x5, and we've really zoomed in there, and we've put our two subjects, this building here and then the mountain back there, on the rule of thirds there. So coming back out, let's move on with this edit. Let's add in a little bit of warmth because there's just a bit more warmth to the entire image. We'll add in warmth some other ways, but we'll just punch in a bit now. We'll up the exposure, get us a bit closer to where we want to be. Okay, so we want to bring up the shadows. As you can see, like down here in these areas, we need much more detail. So let's bring that up. And now we just look like we don't have enough contrast there, but I'm going to do some work in the curves. I'm going to do an S curve in the RGBs. So just really quickly, I'll bring down the highlights. So I know to bring down the highlights because we can see the detail down here, up here in the clouds, and you can't see that in our one. So let's drop the highlights, and as you can see, so much more detail way back there. And yeah, we are looking good. Let's alright, I'm gonna do some work in the curves, but when I do some work in the curves, because I'm gonna do an S curve in the red, green and blue channels, that's gonna add in a lot of contrast. So what I'm gonna do is just drop the contrast now, and we're gonna look really flat, but once I'm done with the curves, it will look much more contrast be added in, and those colors will be a little bit richer. So I'll just do that right now, and then I'll explain what I've done in the curves after. Okay, so that's the curves done, and I'll just touch up a few things up here. So I'll just bring down those whites a little more, put them about there, contrast. Okay, so what is happening in the curves is we've got a S curve in each of the channels, and we've got a real lift in the highlights. So that's going to really help get the vibrance to the image. So there's going to be a lot of brightness to those colors in the highlights there, and a little bit in the mid-tones. So that's what helps make a vibrant image, adding colors into the highlights and mid-tones. And then we just got not too much of a drop in the shadows. So if I drop the shadows lots, that's what's going to put lots of contrast in there. We don't want that. We want quite a bright, vibrant look. So we've got a nice S-curve in the red, green, and blue channel, and there's not much of a color shift. Like sometimes people will put a little less in the highlights, and that will leave you with, so take the blue out of the highlights, you'd get a very warm highlights up here. But we, in this curve, just got a normal color shift, like no color shift is what I mean. So if I just turn it off and on, the colors look mostly the same, apart from they have a bit more punch. And by doing an S-curve in these channels, it has freed us up to use this one as a fading curve. So as you can see, we have lifted up the blacks quite a bit, and that has given a fade to the darkest areas. So you can't really see it heaps in this edit because there's not many shadows or blacks or dark blacks, but you can see it softens up. If you look closely down there, just softens them up a bit. They're quite harsh, and then they get softened up a bit, and then it introduced a bit more shadows as well, because when you bring up this point, this area, the curve drops a little, but that's okay. Go with that, and now those really dark areas are softened up, and that's also going to help get that flat, vibrant, bright look. Okay, so our colors after the curves look a bit more vibrant. Let's add in more vibrance to these colors by lifting them up here. Okay, and we're looking really good now. Let's get the nice smoothness of this image. So this image looks nice and smooth. Let's drop the clarity. So now that looks great. The texture, it kind of controls the texture. So if you come all the way down, you can see just how smooth and then like how grungy it looks if you bring it in that way. So texture and sharpness sort of at the same time. But we'll just drop it down a bit. And he often uses drones to get his shots, and that's a key as well, is to try to make your image look real natural, because drone photos can look quite digital, so bringing down the clarity can give it a really nice natural look to the image. Okay, so we are going to move on. Let's come all the way down to colors down in calibration. So this can allow you to get really unique tones. So here's really orange, really orange greens. So if we come up here and shift the greens all the way to the left, this image doesn't show it very well, but you can't shift the greens any further over to a warm side. That as far as they go. We want them to be more orange, but they're just not going any further. So that's when, if you mix it with calibration down here, you can get some unique tones. So I'm going to shift some of these oranges over. And we'll add some saturation to those, because we have lots of oranges and lots of yellows in these images. So we'll go really lift that up. Going to add a little bit of a teal and blue there. And then we'll just shift the green primary in this direction just a bit. Okay, and then maybe a bit of purple in the shadows there. Okay, so this is actually a really common way to move the calibration sliders. I see this a lot, slightly moving it to the orange and teal down in the blue primary, a little to the right in the green primary and to the right in the red primary. I see this quite often, those directions in the calibrations there. Okay, let's come back up. Let's do some more in the HSL. Let's fine tune these colors now. So by grabbing the colors individually now, so let's start with some saturation. Let's get our colors kind of close with saturation first, because then it'll be easier to work with them in the hues. So saturation, the reds, just trying to match them up. That's pretty much all I'm doing, is playing around, seeing what the oranges are, how much do they stand out of the image, and then just trying to match it up. And then I've got to keep in mind the luminance. So I just brought down the reds, but if I move the luminance, you can see how that kind of affects what the reds look like, or how saturated they look. So I have to think about this as well. This is actually just the brightness of colors, but if you darken a color, it will appear more saturated and deep. So you got to keep in mind that shifting when you're working with the saturation, the blues might look really saturated back there, but that could just be because the luminance is brought down a lot. But there is a subtle difference to the trained eye, it just takes practice. So I'm gonna deepen the greens a bit. Okay, no, I'm gonna really drop the saturation of the greens. But as you can see, greens are very, very often registered as yellows. So they actually aren't really in this image at all, but they will be yellows. I'll just bring them down a little. Take down aquas, take down saturation of the blues. And I know before I said we need to bring down the highlights to reveal more detail in the sky. We can't take down the highlights anymore. So what I'm looking at, I was actually matching up the bottom down here. We look really good here, and then we'll have to come in with a filter for the sky, because I can't take this down anymore. If I take the whites down, we'll start to not have enough whites down here, and that even bring down the whites also doesn't do enough in the sky for us. So what we'll do is later come in with a filter for that down there, up there in the sky. So moving on, let's drop the saturation, purples. So he really isolates those orange and yellow tones by getting rid of a lot of the blues, the greens, and sort of just leaves these ones mainly. And as you can see, there's quite a few aquas like in the sky and stuff. So those aqua, the key colors to this is red, orange, yellow, and aquas. And as you can see, drops out all the other tones. Okay, coming back up to hue. Actually, we'll just do a little bit of luminance. So let's maybe just deepen a lot of these tones, because they look really rich. And if they look really rich, they might be brought down in luminance, because that's how you get a deep color. And I'm also shifting some of these based on just what his other photos look like. So let's get some deep blues. Drop the purples. Magenta. Okay, let's fine tune the colors now with the hues. So I think our saturations in that are pretty good. Let's just, okay. So oranges, no, yellows. Let's see what yellows are doing. So that's really those trees back there a lot, and like these little bits of the building. So as you can see, let's center the yellow. We look very yellow here, and these little dots here, they almost look red. or a lot more orange. So let's shift the yellow across a lot. And that also is correct with those greens over there. Oranges, let's see what the oranges are doing. Okay, that's sort of like affecting quite a bit. Like these little dots here, right back there against the wall as well. I think it looks a little more red, so that's why I'll go that way. And then the reds, let's see where the reds are affecting. So quite obviously these areas here, and if we look over here, I think we could be more orange. So only slightly. Let's shift that a little more that way. And then let's aquas. We really want our aquas to stand out as aquas. So we'll leave them pretty close to a green. So aquas are like a greeny blue almost. And now blues, we want these teals. We want these crazy teals back here. So this image has plenty of blues. Let's drop it down. But you'd want to keep in mind that some images, the blues will be a bit more registered as aquas. So you'll have to like edit the aquas as if they were the blues and stuff. Just depends on the lighting and if your camera captures those colors as aquas or blues. So that can throw some people off. It's got a bit more purple, a bit more red. Sort of want to stay away from these pinkish tones. There's not really any of them in here anyway. Purple, yeah, not many purples in there anyway. Okay, let's just look at a few of these. Greens, might just let there be a few greens in there. So they're actually just really affecting the building there. So if we bring it all the way, I think we can just leave a little bit in there. Okay, yeah, I think we're good, guys. Let's do some other things to this image. So let's look at some sharpening. We want to keep a pretty smooth looking image, so we're not going to bring it up too much, and we're going to bring up the masking. So masking, if you hold Option, I believe it is, it's going to show you exactly where it's sharpening, and then I'll go at about, let's go there. So all the lines, all the thick edges, it's going to sharpen and leave all the fine details nice and soft, so your image doesn't look too crispy in those really fine details. Okay, another tip is noise reduction. So this will also give you a really smooth looking natural image, because especially if you're working with drones and low quality photos, it's gonna look very digital. So bringing up the noise reduction can make it look much more natural. So really good if you do that. Right, okay, something to do with the distortion of this image. So if we come down to transform, this can be quite tricky to notice, but we want to make the building appear straight up. So at the moment it looks like a little bit of an angle going that way, where this one looks a little straighter. Let's mess around, let's lift the vertical so it stands up a bit straighter. And then distortion, I think what he's done is really try to make this image really pop, this building pop, the center of the image just stand out a bit more. So I looked at this image for a while, and then I thought I'll move the distortion. As you can see, it makes like the center of the image look a little fatter. But if you move it too much, you don't want to move this too much when you're working with buildings, because then the edges won't look straight and it will be very obvious and distorted. I think 5 just gives a little bit of a pop. It's just loading still. But yeah, it just sort of makes that building sort of look really 3D and like coming out of the image a little more maybe. But I think that's good. I think we might be onto our last thing, which is a filter over the top of the sky. So let's do that. Let's come up here, and I've already placed it here. And then what we want to do is get the whole sky, but not the building and not the mountain. So what you can do is put the brush down and then go over the brush, and then I've got a brush tool selected now. By doing that, click erase and actually erase away all the areas you don't want it to be affecting. That works really, really good. It's just a bit time consuming. So another way you can do it, if we come back to edit, if you come down here, if you go to luminance and you go show luminance mask. So now within the filter, it's selecting everything by luminance. So you can play around with this. So if you go smoothness, I think smoothness is just like gonna be how harsh it is. So we just go back. But this is the amount of how much it's capturing the luminance value. So if I drag it way out, as you can see, now it's creeping into the building here. We don't want that. We just want it to be affecting the sky. So let's place it back over there and just play around in your image, whatever it is you're not trying to get. Just play around, move this around to find where the best spot is for it not to include whatever it is you're not trying to include. So there, I think it's not affecting the building at all. And now if we just uncheck this box here, we are free to make our edits to the sky without affecting the building or the mountain back there. So let's add warmth into the sky maybe, and its exposure. Let's really drop the highlights like I said before, because we want that detail. Let's dehaze. So dehaze will bring back a lot of detail as well. Let's drop the exposure so we can see more of the sky back there. Some warmth to the sky. And then what the selecting the luminance thing will do, it will like very lightly affect the edges of your selection. And that can look quite natural because that's sort of what light does. It sort of like gives a glow to the edges of the building anyway. So that's a really good way to do it. Let's add in lots of saturation to the sky, obviously. And then we want nice, creamy, soft clouds, especially if you look back there. Real nice, natural looking image. Let's drop the clarity. And let's maybe bring up the contrast just to create a bit more of a pop to things. And yeah, I think we're good there. And yeah, I think that could be us done. So as you can see, a real important thing to this image is those orange, red and yellow tones, and you sort of drop out all the other tones you don't want. So those aquas are still popping out. Those aquas, all these aquas are actually really blues in this image. Maybe drop the sharpening a bit more, maybe back down to 40 or so. to keep it nice and smooth. Calibration there, so we can get some really unique tones. The transform tool to get it nice and vertical. And then if we just say turn off the curves here, it's taking a wee while to load. So as you can see, we get a really flat looking image. And then when we add it back in by checking this, I don't know why it's taking so long to load, but as you can see, this curve is controlling that nice little fade. So if we get rid of just this curve, you can see how it looks kind of harsh. Well, it kind of looks dimmed down. It actually doesn't look too bad, but we want it a little bit brighter, bit softer blacks there, and then bang, bang, bit more of a pop because there's a slight lift to those highlights there. Those shadows are kept only slightly lifted. Black's lifted quite a bit, nice and soft, and then yeah, the S curves for those pops and the highlights, pops in the mid-tones, and yeah, not too much contrast in the shadows there, and yeah, bringing out all that detail of the highlights, and yeah, I'll just leave it there, guys. Okay, so here's our before. If we just go reset, that's before, guys, and then if I just hit Command Z, I'll undo that. I'll undo those settings, and then bang, that's our after. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. That was a pretty fun tutorial to make. Plenty of colors there to work with, and a really awesome photo. So you guys keep commenting down in the description who you guys want to see. Comment people that don't have many followers but have really good images. That way they will send in a photo and I'll do a tutorial on them. And yeah, check out the presets, guys. There is a discount code for this tutorial, Maarten10, to use at checkout. And yeah, if you guys are interested in video editing, go over to maartenschrader.com because there's video editing over there that I don't post on YouTube. So if you're interested in video editing, video colors, Luts, go over there, cinematic color grading, check out maartenschrader.com. And yeah, leave a like, leave a comment, guys. Let me know what you want to see on this channel. I've got a Patreon if you guys want to support this channel as well. And yeah, that's about it, guys. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.